Yes, good morning, everyone. Our today's topic is pregnancy and related aspects. The first part in that it is about placenta formation. You see, at the time when trophoblast gets implanted into the wall of uterus, endometrium part, you can see that in endometrium, the trophoblast covered inner cell mass together known as blastocyst. This is called as blastocyst. It is getting lodged into the wall, that is the endometrium part of uterine wall. It is the trophoblast layer which comes in contact with endometrium. And after being lodged into this, soon the trophoblast layer starts developing projections which will penetrate inside this wall of uterus, like this. These structures are called as chorionic villi. These projections coming from the trophoblast layer, named as chorionic villi, they penetrate into the wall of uterus, the endometrium part over there. And on the other side, the uterine tissue the cavities created by the uterine tissue are filled with the blood, in which these chorionic villi will remain immersed, and the interdigitated network that is created. Interdigitated network means uh, the fingers of your both the arms fit into each other. That's the way on one side the embryonic tissue, that is chorionic villi, and on the other side the uterine tissue, together they intermingle and they constitute the structure this structure as a placenta, characteristic for the mammals, because mammals are the ones which are viviparous. They will use the placenta to supply nutrients and other materials towards the embryo side, from the mother side to embryo side. So the placenta formation takes place only in mammals which are viviparous, and placenta is a tissue formed by both. Contributions come from both sides. It's about maternal tissue, that is the uterine tissue, endometrium part, and it is the embryonic tissue, that is the chorionic villi. Together, when they penetrate into each other, then the placenta is formed. Placenta is not maternal tissue alone, not embryonic tissue alone. It is the combination interdigitated tissue from both sides, maternal side and embryo side. Maternal side में uterine wall and embryo side में chorionic villi originating from the trophoblast layer over there. That forms the placenta. See, it would appear like this. This is how it will appear like. In this patch, you can see that this is the maternal tissue penetration. And on the other side, these all are the chorionic villi that are projected from the blastocyst. And this common patch with maternal tissue as well as embryonic tissue, together it forms the placenta. The chorionic villi represent the fetal portion of placenta, and these cavities filled with the blood, they are the maternal portion of the placenta. Together it is the placental material or placenta stuff. This placenta it's a structural functional unit between the fetal and maternal body, a unit which will be formed by both contributions of both, and one which will be structural and functional unit that will maintain exchange point between the mother and fetus or embryo, you can say. The mother and developing body, the fetus, initially the embryo and later on called as fetus. So the mother and fetal body exchange the materials with each other with the help of these placental tissue over there. Since when the placenta development starts? For that, you have to understand that since the day the implantation happens, now implantation itself is to be considered as the process in the 4th week beginning, because first 2 weeks, in which 14th day is the ovulation, pregnancy considered जो होता है उसका beginning point होता है menstruation of last menstruation का first day है, वो pregnancy का first day in a way consider किया जाता है अगर तो implantation होता है उस cycle में. So the given cycle in which implantation occurred, first 2 weeks are for the development, so 14-day ovulation. Third week end, nearly 21 to 23rd day, the embryo blastocyst is fully developed, and the 4th week beginning, 23rd day in a way, 22 or 23rd day, the implantation starts. So technically speaking, 1 week after ovulation, or else on the first day of implantation, and in the context of the entire pregnancy, beginning of the 4th week of the pregnancy, whichever way you want to consider, that is the day when placenta formation starts. And placenta development continues for months, even several months, up to which it will continue to grow further more and more inside the uterus over there. What is the significance of this placenta? Have a look at it. Well, placenta becomes an exchange point between the maternal side and fetal side. So the supply of oxygen and nutrients, on one side there is a mother, on another side there is an embryo. ये भी बोल दूं embryo और fetus का difference क्या है, so that again and again there should be no confusion over there. Developed embryo up to the 8th week after the fertilization. Fertilization हुआ अगर 14 day पे, तो उसको अगर day 1 consider करें, तो then after 8 weeks then after, और pregnancy की beginning consider करें तो 2 weeks even before that. 10 weeks up to which the developed body is called as an embryo. From zygote to an embryo. Various stages are there. Zygote to morula to blastula to gastrula, like that. Various stages are there. But up to the 10 weeks, it is considered as 10 weeks of pregnancy, it is considered as embryo. And 11th week onwards, the same structure will be considered as fetus. So initially the placenta will be there as an exchange site between mother and embryo, and later between mother and fetus. Now, what are the things that will move from the mother through placenta into embryo? Mainly oxygen and nutrients. They will be shifted from the mother through the placenta into an embryo. What will be transferred from the embryo through placenta into mother? CO2 and excretory wastes. They will be transferred from the embryo through placenta into mother. Later on, what happens is that as the development progresses, the embryo comes out from the wall of endometrium into the cavity of uterus, like this. See, initially the embryo was lodged into this region, the wall of uterus. But as the time progresses, the embryo comes out into this cavity. Now, what is this cavity all about? This is the one we are talking about. Now, this is the cavity of uterus. So the embryo comes down into this cavity. And this placenta remains as it is, because it has a maternal tissue that is contributed by the uterine wall, endometrium part of it. So on one hand, still there are chorionic villi which represent the fetal stuff. There is a uterine wall which represents the maternal stuff. They remain together. So this is the placenta part. But the developing embryo is getting away from the placenta. So it becomes incumbent, necessary to develop a connection between the placenta part and the embryo that is moving away. And this connection is called as umbilical cord. As the time progresses in the pregnancy, the umbilical cord, the lifeline of the fetus, umbilical cord is a very important part, because from the maternal tissue exclusively into the common tissue, that is placenta, into the fetal tissue, that is umbilical cord. Now, umbilical cord is exclusively a fetal tissue. When we talk about placenta, it's a combination of two, maternal and fetal tissue. But then after, from the placenta, this stuff that is connecting stuff that is developed, called umbilical cord, it doesn't belong to mother. It is only the embryonic tissue or a fetal tissue that is the one which at the other end remains connected to the embryo over there. This is the embryo. So always remember that the umbilical cord is a structure which belongs to exclusively embryo part and not the mother side. And it is not a placenta even. So there is a maternal tissue exclusively in the uterine wall. Then comes the endometrium, where there is an overlapping between maternal tissue and fetal chorionic villi, that is called placenta. Then these chorionic villi are connected to form a duct-like structure called umbilical cord. And at the other end of the umbilical cord, there is an embryo. This umbilical cord is a lifeline of a fetus. Things move from maternal tissue to placenta through the umbilical cord into the embryo. This structure keeps extending month after the month during the pregnancy. So every month, every time, it's, as the time progresses in the pregnancy, its length goes on increasing over there. The purpose of the same is that you might have even heard about this thing. At times, the umbilical cord entwines around the neck region of the fetus before birth, and that can be responsible for death of the baby. Stillbirth is given in this scenario. Have you heard about this thing? A dead baby is given a birth, that's stillbirth, when one of the reason, not the only reason, that one of the reason is that entwining of the umbilical cord around the neck region of the baby. So the point is that this is the uterus, and for 9 months the baby is gonna remain inside this uterus only, na? Then why is this umbilical cord keeping on extending itself? Purpose is, when after 9 months of pregnancy, when a birth is going to be given to the baby has to come out from cervical canal and further through the vaginal canal, that is the birth canal, and baby will be out. Baby will be outside over there. When baby is outside, even at that point, it should have a connection with this placenta. Until the baby is out, the connection should be there with the placenta. While baby is coming out from the birth canal, it takes several, it may be even minutes to hours, a period may be little longer. So at that time, when a baby is coming out, and imagine if the umbilical cord was short, the baby will detach from it and will try to come out through this canal. But while it is coming out from this canal, the birth canal, it will be getting suffocated over there. It cannot breathe on its own at that time. So will die over there itself. But think reverse, that if the umbilical cord is longer, so even if the baby is trying to come out from the birth canal, getting away from the placenta, still it is connected to the placenta via this umbilical cord, which will keep supplying oxygen even while the baby is on its way through the birth canal to come out. And even when it is coming out, till that point, it is still connected with the placenta. Naturally, after the birth, they cut off this connection between baby and mother. So the umbilical cord is cut off, and baby will start breathing on its own in this world. So that's why we call it as the lifeline of the baby. And one interesting fact, that in some countries, developed countries, they store the umbilical cord of the baby. They pull out this entire umbilical cord and store it, preserve it, because it possesses stem cells. Stem cells are those cells which possess potency to develop different organs and tissues of the body. So for example, if the baby turns into an adult, and at that time, this baby suffers from bone marrow cancer, let's say bone marrow cancer. So we'll not have to look for a suitable matched bone marrow in the others. His or her preserved this umbilical cord with the stem cells. Those stem cells, if you put into the cavities of the bones as a bone marrow stuff, it will develop into a bone marrow over there. And a new bone marrow implantation is not required. Baby's own stem cells can be the source for this new bone marrow. Baby will not be dependent, individual will not be dependent on others for a source of matched bone marrow over there. So that is the advantage of preserving this umbilical cord. So they say it's a lifeline of the baby. Then another function of this placenta, obviously it will help in development of the umbilical cord. That was one of the function we have gone through. The fourth function of this placenta is to act as a temporary endocrine gland. You see, first of all, an endocrine gland, because it secretes hormones. So it should be called as an endocrine gland. But it will do so only during the duration of pregnancy. It is there beginning since the fourth week, first day, the implantation day. Since then, it starts developing the placenta. And it will be discarded after the birth of a baby. So it will be there till the end of the ninth month and delivery day. And after the delivery, within a day or two, this material on its own will be slushed off from the mother's uterus. So for those virtually 8 to 9 months period, it will remain there, keep secreting hormones. It's called the first one secreted by the trophoblast cells since the day they established, implantation into the implantation of embryo into the uterine region. Since that day, HCG secretion starts. It's a full form of human chorionic gonadotropin. As I said, that the day one of implantation is the day one for placenta formation starting over there. So since that day, those chorionic villi projecting from the trophoblast will start secretion of HCG. Gonadotropin means FSH and LH. They are to be secreted by the anterior pituitary in a normal condition. But in a pregnant lady, to maintain level of progesterone, corpus luteum has to be maintained. To maintain corpus luteum, high level of LH and FSH are maintained. To maintain high level of FSH and LH, anterior pituitary of the pregnant lady may not be providing sufficient FSH LH. So additional supply of FSH and LH is maintained by placenta. So it is called as human chorionic gonadotropins. इसके लिए एक word है placental. So placental gonadotropins, FSH LH secreted from the placenta. This is a very important hormone because it is there since the day of implantation, and gradually as placenta grows, its level increases over there. The one used to detect to confirm the pregnancy. You may have heard about certain kits like Prega News and others. Have you heard about these kits which can be used to confirm the pregnancy? Because in a pregnant woman, the HCG generated in the placenta comes in the bloodstream. Through the bloodstream, it is coming out into the urine. So its traces are available in urine. A urine sample of a pregnant lady or a lady who wants to confirm whether pregnancy is there or not, because अगर menstrual cycle skip हुआ है और उसको पता है कि अगर population हुआ था unprotected, he may have conceived. To confirm that, the lady will use her own urine drops to put into the sites wherein certain signals will be available in this pregnancy detection kit, and by which it can be confirmed over here whether the pregnancy is there or not. If there is a pregnancy, HCG presence will be there in urine and it will be detected on such kit. So HCG is a very important hormone. It is actually used to confirm the pregnancy over there. The second is human placental lactogen, also presently known as HCS, human chorionic somatomamotropine. Basically, it is equivalent to the prolactin secreted from the anterior pituitary of mother. With the prolactin coming from the mother's anterior pituitary, nothing but prolactin only in a way. Together, this prolactin and HPL stimulate the mammary glands to grow further, differentiate further. The next hormones, if you see, estrogens and progesterone. Now, these are the gonadal hormones to be secreted by the ovary. Ovary normally secretes these hormones over there. The levels of progesterone need to be maintained very high. By the way, here the term is progestogens. So progestogens is a group of hormones in which progesterone is one of the members. So basically, progestogens and estrogens secreted by the ovary, and in a pregnant lady, they are also secreted by the placenta. The purpose is that ovaries may not be producing adequate amounts of estrogen progesterone to sustain the pregnancy. Pregnancy sustenance requires a very large amounts of progesterone. Growth of the mammary glands in the breast is required. For that, the progesterone support is needed. Endometrium maintenance is required. Placenta maintenance is required. Again, that will require a lot of progesterone over there. So ovary corpus luteum maintains its structure, keeps secreting the estrogen, but it is not sufficient. So supplementary source is created, and that is the placenta. Actually, placenta becomes the main source of progestogens after the 4th month of the pregnancy, because then after, the corpus luteum which was there left from the last cycle, which has continued to maintain its structure for 4 months, gradually it will degenerate after the 4th month, but no issues, because when it is lost, the placenta has developed so much after 4 months that it secretes adequate amount of progestogen and estrogens now. Another important hormone, an interesting hormone, is called relaxin. Now, basically, there are two sources of relaxin. One is ovary and another one is placenta. Ovary of non-pregnant woman and even pregnant woman. In ovary, its corpus luteum is the ultimate source of relaxin, which will come in every woman, whether she is pregnant or not, in a post-ovulatory phase of the menstrual cycle. किसी भी फीमेल का menstrual cycle के 14 डे के बाद जब corpus luteum डेवलप होता है, तो उस corpus luteum में से relaxin secrete होता है, but the amount is insignificant, so almost negligible you may consider. But the same thing happens in the corpus luteum of the ovary of a pregnant woman. And later on, when the corpus luteum degenerates after 4th month of the pregnancy, it is the placenta. So this ovary and placenta source of relaxin over there. Achha, relaxin is a peptide hormone. Unlike the estrogen, progesterone secreted from ovary are steroids, this is the peptide hormone. Relaxin basically softens the pubic symphysis. I'm sure you understand the pubic symphysis term, so not going in detail. The joint in the coxal bones, you remember the joint in the coxal bones, the cartilaginous joint in the coxal bones. That joint is softened up, loosened up over there. Not only that, but it is also widens the cervix in the later stages of the pregnancy. सर्विक्स को वाइडन करने से birth canal easily open hoga, so that the baby can be given birth at the time of parturition. And the relaxin also relaxes the ligaments in the pelvis region, to which the uterus and ovary others are attached. Those ligaments are softened up. The pubic symphysis joint is softened up. The cervix part is widened up. All these things will contribute into the, preparing the body for parturition. 9 months pregnancy is going to be terminated, and then finally birth is to be given to the baby. Baby will be pushed out from uterus through the birth canal to outside. That is called as parturition. At that time, there will be significant changes in the size of the uterus, cervix, vagina. For that, their attachments with the wall of the, body, they are done with the, ligaments. Those ligaments need to be loosened up so that they can alter that shape, these organs. Second is the pubic symphysis will be loosened up. So the cavity through which the baby has to come out, that cavity is being widened up. So relaxin is ultimately a hormone that will facilitate the birth of a baby. That is the profile of the placenta. Additionally, it also secretes thymotrophin and corticotrophin. Obviously not mentioned in the book, so we are not going in details of those hormones. You see, during the pregnancy, a woman or a female undergoes turmoil of hormones. Turmoil, you understand, large scale transactions and large scale changes in the concentration over there. There are so many hormones, and some of them which never appear otherwise in the life of a female, they start appearing over there. For example, HCG and HPL. Obviously, relaxin is even there before the pregnancy, but it is insignificant. It's detectable. Significant amount will be available only during pregnancy. So many hormonal changes are taking place in the female at the time of pregnancy. Particularly HCG, HPL and relaxin will be available only during pregnancy. So their presence, detectable significant amounts in the bloodstream, indicate that the female is pregnant over there. Ovary and placenta particularly secreting the relaxin, and mainly in the later phases of pregnancy, as I mentioned, to ensure the proper parturition act. Even the estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, these hormones levels increase tremendously in a mother bloodstream. During this pregnancy period, mother will experience tremendous rise in their levels. Some of them actually support the fetal growth, fetal metabolism. Some will help in maintenance of pregnancy, lactation, etc. Jaise, so high level of prolactin is necessary for lactation aspect. High level of progesterone and progestrogens for maintenance of pregnancy and even lactation after the delivery. High level of thyroxine for the growth of the baby. High level of thyroxine and cortisol for the metabolism rate of the high metabolism rate of the body, because fetus and mother both will experience high level of metabolism that can be supported by cortisol and thyroxine. Progestrogens and estrogens support pregnancy. So it is the period, the pregnancy is the period in the life of a female when her body experiences drastic, large scale hormonal changes over there. Well, with this, I conclude the topic of placenta and pregnancy hormones. I'm not repeating these things today, not even question answer, only doubt solving in case if you have. You can see the recorded video for the revision purpose. So that is going to be there available to you. But running lecture revision, because the chapter will not be completed otherwise. If time left at the end, we will revise the things. So before I move on to the next topic, that is embryo development, I'm asking you, you have any question regarding this topic? Well, no one is raising question. That means I will go forward in the next topic. Embryo development. See, pregnancy is considered to have started even before evolution, before ovulation over there. So those 2 weeks before ovulation, since the first day of menstruation till the 14th day of this cycle and the ovulation happened, they are also added into the pregnancy. Third week beginning ovulation. Within the third week, there is fertilization. So zygote is formed somewhere in the third week. 14-day ovulation, who are secondary oocyte, has gone into the infundibulum and has got fertilized to turn into a zygote. And within 1 week, that zygote passing from the 2-cell stage, 4-cell stage, morula stage, then transforming itself into the blastocyst. And 4th week के beginning में, that is 23rd, 22nd day nearly, implantation occurs over there. These implanted embryo, that is the blastocyst, it has got only 2 things: the trophoblast layer, the outermost layer of cells, single layer of the cells, and then there is a small mass of cell which is called as inner cell mass, and there is a cavity which is called as blastocele, filled with the fluid over there. Such an embryo gets implanted into the wall of uterus, and then it will gradually transform itself into the next stage, and that is called as gastrula. So your blastula or blastocyst shall transform itself into gastrula over the weeks. In this transformation, the outer layer, that is the trophoblast, it will not contribute at all in the embryo formation. I think I must have told you while explaining about the trophoblast layer that the trophoblast layer does not participate in the formation of embryo. Blastula is a stage in which trophoblast and inner cell mass, whereas its inner cell mass makes an embryo called gastrula, whereas trophoblast will not participate in this gastrula formation. Please understand that. What I'm explaining to you is that blastocyst stage has two things: trophoblast layer and the inner cell mass. It is the inner cell mass which is going to form the next stage called gastrula. So as you could see, the trophoblast has not contributed in the further embryonic development. While this inner cell mass develops the next stage, that is called as gastrula. The gastrula is a triploblastic embryonic stage. We all are triploblast, right from annelida, right from this, flatworms, the platyhelminths onwards, we all are triploblast. We are the further triploblast and coelomates, annelida onwards. So we are triploblastic organisms. Our embryo possesses 3 germinal layers over there. Outermost layer of the body of the embryo is called as ectoderm. Middle layer is known as mesoderm, and innermost layer is known as endoderm. So our inner cell mass develops into a triploblastic embryo which possesses ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Obviously, one cavity, and that is the blastocele cavity, which will later be known as gastrocele cavity. Its aperture, which is called as blastopore. I'm sure you remember in 11th we have learned this thing. ये जो blastopore होता है, अगर ये माउथ में कन्वर्ट होता है तो द ग्रुप इज कॉल्ड प्रोटोस्टोम्स, और ये अगर एनस में कन्वर्ट होता है तो द ग्रुप इज टू बी कॉल्ड एज ड्यूट्रोस्टोम्स. ये भी आपको पढ़ाया गया है. So coming back to our topic, the embryo development. As I mentioned that the zygote to 2-celled embryo, 4-celled embryo, morula, then blastocyst. In blastocyst, inner cell mass and trophoblast. Trophoblast does not participate in the further development. Inner cell mass develops the embryo further into the next stage called gastrula, which is a triploblastic embryo where 3 germinal layers or embryonic cell layers are there. Outer one, ectoderm, middle one, mesoderm, inner one, endoderm, and a cavity called blastocele and its opening called as blastopore. And around this embryo, there will be layers which will be known as extra embryonic layers. I will explain about extra embryonic layers now, or extra embryonic membranes, which will be developed around the embryo. This is the embryo. So layers outside the embryo, around the embryo, are called extra embryonic membranes are developed around the embryo. I'm going to talk about them also. But before I go in detail, let me explain that when this embryo with 3 germinal layers, its cells undergo differentiation. They form various tissues over there, and various organs and various systems. And that will lead to the development of entire body over there. So entire body can develop from these 3 germinal layers. For example, ectoderm gives rise to epidermis of the skin and nervous tissue. The mesoderm gives rise to our skeletal system, our muscle system, our circulatory system, etc. Excretory system. Our endoderm, mesoderm even forms the wall of the alimentary canal, the 3 layers of it, by the way, the serosa, muscularis, and submucosa. Whereas throughout mouth to anus, the innermost layer, that is mucosa membrane, that is developed from endoderm. The glands like pancreas and liver develop from the endoderm. So this is how all of them participate in the development of our entire body over there. While inner cell mass was developing the 3 germinal layers called ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm, parallelly, it had some cells which were identified as stem cells. It formed some cells as the stem cells. Stem cells possess a special property known as totipotency. They can differentiate into any tissue of the body. A zygote is the one which has the maximum totipotency. A zygote can differentiate into an entire body. So that power of developing into the different tissues and parts of the body is called as totipotency. I was also talking about the stem cells in the umbilical cord, it is the same stem cells which are there in embryo as well as there in umbilical cord. You see, the stem cells can differentiate into the different types of tissues required in the system. They are unique over there. The moment you differentiate into ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm, then this thing is not possible. Just ectoderm tissues, they they develop into ectoderm cells will develop into specialized tissue only, not in every tissue. Same is the case with the mesoderm, and same is the case with what? Endoderm. So the primary differentiation of embryo cells prepares ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. And high level differentiation in these layers gives rise to different tissues and organs in the system over there. Whereas such differentiation is missing in the cells which are termed as the stem cells. They are named as stem cells. Gradually, when the development progresses, these stem cells are lost. They are no longer left in the embryo. In a mature body, though virtually they are absent. Only in a bone marrow, partial totipotency containing stem cells are there, which cannot develop into as such into all cells of the body, but at least they can develop into RBC, WBC, 5 different types of WBC and platelets. So that's a kind of a partial totipotency retaining stem cells we find only in our bone marrow. So mature body doesn't have the stem cells, embryo does have the stem cells, but as the differentiation progresses, pregnancy continues over there, time passes in that, the stem cells of the embryo gradually disappear, leaving behind only few stem cells, that too with the partial totipotency left behind in our bone marrow. Any question up to this point? Next stage. Well, we all know that the pregnancy lasts for 9 months. If you consider in terms of clusters of the months, so first 3 months are called as first trimester. Next 3 months are called as second trimester. And last 3 months are called as third trimester. So pregnancy is equal to 3 trimester, or else 9 months, or else 36 weeks, whichever way you consider. First trimester 3 months 12 weeks, second trimester 4, 5, 6 months, and next 12 weeks, so 24th week, and third trimester is equal to month numbers 7, 8, 9, which means weeks right from 25th to 36 weeks. So whichever way you want to see, that's how one has to understand. In that also I have mentioned that up to the first 10 weeks, total 36 weeks में से week day 1 से week 1 जो start हुआ वहां से लेके 10th week के end तक, it is considered as the embryo. And 11th week के beginning से 36 week के end तक, it is considered as a fetus. And when given a birth, it is known as newborn baby. During this 9 months of development, some significant changes take place in every month and trimester. So some of the highlightable points are given here, like first month of pregnancy, the heart development will be there. The developing embryo will have a heart right from the end of the first month itself. By the end of second month, the limbs and digits start developing over there. The embryo with this second month See, second month. You can see the limbs and digits are being formed over there. By the end of first trimester, 3 months or 12 weeks, limbs, external genitalia, then major organ systems inside the body, they all start developing over there. So the development goes rapidly then after, once the systems are. Then 5 months, the fetus, now onwards, you see they are calling it as a fetus. In fact, 12th week itself, it should be called as fetus. 10 week के बाद उसको fetus कहते हैं. So mid third month के बाद उसको fetus कहेंगे, ऐसा. So since then, the fetus, if you see in the 5th month, it will show first movements over there. Mother will experience some movement since the 5th week of 5th month of pregnancy. Entire head region will show the presence of hair over there. So in the head region, hair presence will be seen. Obviously, in a sonography, one can make out this thing. High digital sonography में ये सब चीजें दिखती है यहाँ. So during the 5th month, the first movements of fetus and appearance of hair on the head. By the end of second trimester, 6 months completed, 24 weeks ending, the body remains covered with fine hair. Entire body पे अभी hair नहीं, a head नहीं, पूरा body पे hair का covering है. The eyelids separate. The eyelashes are formed. These are the developments over there. Baby can open the eyes now. Certain times, while sonography, these things are captured over there. And finally, at the end of the 9th month, 3 trimester over, 9 months over, and 36 weeks over, the fetus is fully developed and it is ready for the delivery. Any question on this topic? Okay, no one is raising questions, so we can move to the next. Well, as I mentioned, this next topic is the parturition, and as I have already mentioned about it, that our gestational period for humans is 9 months. And as a culmination of gestation or pregnancy, finally, the baby shall be pushed out from the uterus through the birth canal. And that is called as delivery of the baby or fetus, or else you may call it as the parturition. For that, the vigorous contractions in the uterus are required towards the end of the pregnancy, which will expel the fetus outside the body from the uterus through the birth canal to the outside. That is termed as parturition. This is a kind of neuroendocrinal mechanism. The nervous system sending its messages through the nerve impulses, and the endocrine system sending its messages through the hormones. Both are significantly involved in this entire mechanism of parturition. Let's assume that the female has completed 9 months of pregnancy. The fetus is fully developed, ready for the birth. So the signal has to come for the birth, and that signal comes from fully developed fetus. It secretes one hormone called as oxytocin. Now you may be wondering that oxytocin though otherwise comes from pituitary of mother. So in this case, oxytocin comes from the fully developed fetus. A fully developed fetus starts secreting oxytocin. Parallelly, the placenta starts secreting prostaglandins. I think I have informed you about prostaglandins in a seminal plasma. Basically, these are hormone-like compounds. Their effects are like the hormones. Virtually all tissues of the body produce this lipid substance. These are basically lipoid, active lipoid compounds over there. And they have hormone-like effects. But because they are produced by virtually all tissues of the body, they are not considered as hormones, typical hormones. So, as an impact of the secretion of these two, the mother's uterus with carrying this fetus, this uterus starts undergoing mild contractions. The intensity of these contractions is low and the frequency is also less. And that starts the labor pain. To have the labor pain is a very long process which will end up with the birth of the baby, parturition. It may go for hours. So before the hours of that terminal stage of parturition, the mild uterine contractions start in the mother, and they are initiated by the oxytocin and prostaglandin, respectively secreted by the fully developed fetus and mother's placental part. This will be the first signal for parturition. This is also called as fetal ejection reflex, because this will send a message, the nervous system message. जब यूट्रस में contraction start होता है तो वहां पे sensory units लगे हुए हैं यूट्रस में, वो एक मैसेज जनरेट करते हैं. That message goes to mother's brain. Mother's brain passes this message to mother's pituitary, and mother's pituitary now starts secretion of oxytocin over there. So see, nervous system is also involved, endocrine system is also involved, neuroendocrine mechanism, this one. फिर से मैं इस पॉइंट पे आपको लाता हूं. When a fetus is fully developed, has completed 9 months of development, it starts release of oxytocin. Parallelly, the placenta starts secreting the special lipoid chemicals, which are hormone-like compounds called as prostaglandins. As an effect of this too, the pregnant mother's uterus starts undergoing milder contractions. Intensity less, frequency less, number of contractions less per unit time. This generates the nervous system signal, which goes to the mother's brain, and mother's brain will pass